It's really such a pleasure being with you here today. It's so both nostalgic and emotional for me that this is where my intellectual life was started, and
Yeah.
I owe it all to you
Oh, no,
bringing
you
me
don't.
here.
Yeah, I remember you well, Bob. You were an outstanding student here.
Well, it was really marvelous, and the career you've had has been a spectacular. The work that you've done, and
Yeah.
really anatomy and brain science. It's really been a pleasure, and it really is terribly relevant to me now because really for my entire life, even though I've done some other things, in business and various
Of
things.
course, of course.
The mind-body problem has always been at the core
Yeah,
of what drove me, what made me passionate. And I've
yeah,
worked with many philosophers and scientists from different perspectives, but people always focus on the mind part
yeah.
and trying to understand that. But what about the body part? This is something that you spent your whole life with.
Yeah, it's a very important subject because all medical students must know the intimate details of the human bodies. And the mind, the brain, which is the home of the mind, controls both the sensory input and the motor output to and from various aspects of the human body. Actually, we have a course in anatomy here that goes through all aspects of human morphology. And our medical students today don't quite get the number of hours of anatomy that they did maybe 10 or 20 years ago. However, their focus is a bit different. The focus is teaching the basic science subjects such as anatomy or physiology in relation to the human problems and the human condition. So our curriculum is quite different today from what it was when you were a student.
I've been so honored to know that over the years, the professor who brought me into brain research, to which I will be indebted to you for my entire life, has written and edited the leading books in the field of anatomy. You're the editor of Gray's Anatomy, the current edition, regional atlas of your own, and a dissector for medical students. I have known this, but I'd love you to catch me up after 4 decades on all the magnificent work you've done.
Oh, I'd be happy to tell you about these books because Henry Gray was an English physician who worked at Guy's Hospital, and in 1858 he produced the first edition of Gray's Anatomy. And the book then was given to a company in the United States in Philadelphia, Lee and Fabiger, and they were given the rights of selling that book to the Western Hemisphere. And what happened was that the American edition has now gone through 30 editions, of which this is the 30th. The English edition has gone through a few more, I think 36 now. But the American edition of Gray's Anatomy was used by every medical student in our country, at least from the mid-1890s on through to about 1960 or 65. Today we use shorter books because the amount of time we have in teaching anatomy is fewer. But this book is an exceedingly complete description of each part of the body, along with all the vessels, all of the nerves, all of the muscles, and all the organs.
The definitive reference.
I think today it is. Gray's Anatomy is the definitive reference. Now this book is an atlas of human anatomy, and what that is a series of color photographs done by outstanding anatomists and artists, which describe various areas in the body, shows all the muscles, all the blood vessels, and all the nerves. A student has this alongside of his cadaver and attempts to create a dissection comparable to what he or she can see in the book. And in fact, in this particular book, we have a sequential order of figures. For example, this area shows the liver, and these are all figures of the liver, and it shows where the liver is in the body. So the book is a help to medical students, and what I have done, in addition to adding figures to it, is to write all the notes and all the labels of these figures.
What a magnificent work.
And this particular book is a dissector. What this book does is describe each of the dissections that a student must do in his course in anatomy. And in red, these are the things that the person specifically must do during the dissection of this region. This happens to be of the pelvis, as you can see. And then the other description here is elaboration of the anatomy of the region that they're dissecting. So this is a dissector, and
how many different sections would there be?
38. There are 38 dissections in this. And these two books are now used in many medical schools, not only in America, but in Europe and in Asia and in South America. Several have been translated as well. So, yeah, this is the thing a professor does, especially when they get a little older.
Wow,
they sit and do a lot of writing.
It's a magnificent contribution, and really it's a catalog of what it means to be human.
Well, that's a nice way of putting it, I think.